You're still watching TVC Breakfast. Now to continue the conversation, we'll be taking you to the Center of Unity where Shomomo is standing by with the FCT brief. He's going to be talking about security. Good morning, Esho Inakwana. The conversation is with you.
Yeah, Riyadh. Good morning, Nigerians, and welcome to FCT Brief. Now, your trusted platform for thoughtful conversations on issues shaping Nigeria's security, diplomacy, and national interest. Now, today, we are reviewing a subject that has sparked intense public debate and strategic concern, and that is the presence of United States troops in Nigeria. Now, the question on the lips of many Nigerians is this military engagement a vital strategic partnership aimed at strengthening counterterrorism efforts, intelligence sharing, and regional stability, or does it raise questions about sovereignty, long-term security risk, and the broader implications for Nigeria's defense architecture? As global powers recalibrate their interests and security footprints, these questions demand careful and informed discussion. To provide perspective grounded in experience, we are joined this morning by Captain Bish Johnson, a retired United States Army personnel with deep insight into military strategy, international security cooperation. He will share his professional assessment of what this partnership means for Nigeria, the benefits and concerns involved, and what Nigeria should understand about the evolving nature of foreign military presence on our soil. Now, nice to have you here, Captain.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah, before we go into having the U.S. troops in Nigeria, let's just quickly talk about the attack in Kayama local government in Kwara State and also in part of Benue State. I think Nuku and Goro community in Kwara State and also Abande community in Benue State. Now, if we expedite the action of putting in place the state police or community policing, whatever we call it, will it make any difference in the security architecture in Nigeria?
Yeah, it can make a difference, but I'll tell you that it will take more than that for us to fix this almost 2-decade entrenched insecurity in Nigeria. I've been consistent that we have to do something serious about our borders. We have to. It's been stated time and again that the people who are killing Nigerians, at least if not all of them, but most, are coming in from outside Nigeria. So what we seem to be doing is what I would liken to an analogy where your house is flooded, right? Instead of going to isolate the inlet valve that supplies water to your house, you are busy bailing the water, and your house kept flooding. We need to close the valve, and they will now bail the water. That is the permanent solution to the problem. You see, as we can't kill our way out of this whole thing with the strategy that we are using. We wait, they will come in, strike, we'll deploy forces, and then they go to where we pull those forces from, they strike, then we go back to the other side, we pull forces, because our asset is constant, right? Our equipment is constant. I understand we can do procurements, but it takes a while. I understand we can grow capacity by hiring more manpower, recruiting more people. It takes a while before the people you're recruiting now are available to confront these challenges. And even if you finish training them, there are still some that will retire from the services. And so for us to build this capacity, we must have to take some radical steps to close the gap in terms of manpower, in terms of equipment, in terms of funding, in terms of training, to be able to stop these problems. But even at that, even if we have done all of that, and our borders still remain as porous as they are today, those challenges will continue to persist.
That the conversation for whether we need to work on our border is something that we might take another day, because the argument will be, do you want walls to be built around across the border, or do we go the way of technology to fix it?
It can be all solution, or method. The former Chief of Defense Staff, who is now the current Minister of Defense, had put out that postulation of building walls before he retired as Chief of Defense Staff. and now he's back as Minister of Defense. Look, we have to use a combination of all of that. Places that we can build war, let's build war. Places that we can use technology, let's use technology. Places that we can use manpower, let's use manpower. It will be a combination of all of this. But our borders can't remain as porous as they are.
And the law that we need to tweak to get in community policing, if we have to do it, we have to do it fast.
We have to do all of those. Even as we secure our borders, we have to grow the manpower, the boots on the ground, whether they are state policing, local government policing, whatever it is.
All right, Captain, that leads me to the other thing. You just talked about boots on the ground, and we just got the news that the United States government is deploying men, boots on ground in Nigeria. And it has raised a lot of concern among Nigerians. To some, the U.S. is invading our territory, while others feel that, look, if you can't do it alone, why not seek other partners? Now, what is your thoughts, and what is the implication of having these boots on ground in Nigeria?
The U.S. is not invading our country. We are misreading this whole thing, particularly members of the media. Nigeria had an understanding, security cooperation understanding with the United States to assist Nigeria in combating the security challenges that had bedeviled us for nearly 2 decades that we have not been able to solve. And let me tell you something. There is no country in the world where you don't have military personnel from another country in those countries. There's no embassy that does not have military wing, does not have military department. Without these people, this small team that came in, there are still some U.S. military personnel in U.S. embassy in Nigeria. If you go to our embassy in Washington, D.C., we have military there. So is that considered invasion? No, it's not an invasion. It's an agreement between two governments that, look, we need your assistance. And from what I understand, from what I have read in the media about the size of the team that came in, that team is not a team that can be considered to be an invasion, because they said, even from your own knowledge, it's a small team. I don't know what the mission is, right? Because I don't know the branches or the unit where they came from. You have to have specific information as to the size of the team, their makeup, and for you to be able to determine what mission they are. But based on general knowledge, it is understood that this team is here primarily for what is called the ADT, Advice, Direct, Train, which will involve helping Nigerians to analyze intelligence information accurately, because you can gather intel. You may not be able to analyze it properly, and if you don't analyze it properly, it will be misapplied. And so they are coming in for surveillance purposes, intelligence analysis, and reconnaissance operation, and to advise and help to coordinate this intel so that between Nigerian military and African Command, so that the intel that is gathered and properly analyzed is more effectively utilized.
Okay. The challenge we have is that we have a security challenge that we've not been able to handle for several years. Is it out of place if the Nigerian government goes beyond just have, like you analyzed, initially you said you have military attaché in all embassies.
Yes.
And now it's a step further. We have other boots on ground beyond the attaché in the embassy. Then if it goes beyond that, do we have anything to lose if somebody is coming to help us defeat the enemy we've not been able to handle for years? Is it out of place?
Absolutely not. I'm even thinking that we should even go a bit further.
To what extent?
Until we are able to solve our problems. Because we have been dealing with this problem for 2 decades. We have been unable to solve it. If somebody says, look, I'll help you to solve your problem, you let that person help you solve the problem. For how long are we going to continue to run around in circles? How long? You can't continue to do the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different outcome. That is a complete definition of insanity. So I am even thinking that based on the information that I've read from the media, that the small team is not enough. The U.S. has to do more. They have to do more. The United States has to do more, even in terms of manpower, in terms of funding and equipment, for us to be able to dislodge this hydra-headed, 2-decade entrenched insecurity in Nigeria. They should also help us in securing our borders.
No, but such bringing such troop into the country will have its own political implications.
Well,
some people have said they've identified some countries where the U.S. has intervened and it left a bad taste. They talked about Iraq, they talked about Libya and all that, and they said, look, check, where has U.S. gone to, and the country is stable after, and those are some of the concerns people are raising.
Listen, the United States is not invading Nigeria. Nigeria welcomed the United States through a cooperative agreement to collaborate with them. The problem we have in Nigeria, which I have noticed and I've tried to tell members of the media, because you guys have a lot of power in trying to, shape perception. You can't be comparing apples and oranges. United States went into Afghanistan because Al-Qaeda, sheltered by the Taliban administration, led by Mullah Omar, attacked America and killed over 3,000 American innocent citizens. You can't expect that America will relax and be clapping hands for Taliban and Afghanistan. So Afghanistan was invaded because America must seek justice for their citizens that were slaughtered. Iraq, the U.S. went into Iraq because it was believed at the time from intelligence that was provided that Iraq was developing weapons of mass destruction in violation of UN resolution. And the U.S. went in there to enforce that resolution. And let me tell you, Iraq is not the outcome is not as bad as you people are talking about in the media. The media is talking about in Iraq.
Okay.
Let's go back. Let's finish the Iraq issue.
Just hold your thought. We'll come back to this.
Okay.
After this break. Just stay with. You're welcome back. If you're just joining us, I've been speaking with Captain Bish Johnson, and it's about the U.S. troop in Nigeria. Now you left out talking about trying to correct the narrative out there. Just conclude with your thoughts.
Now, what was happening in Iraq before U.S. went into Iraq? What was happening in Iraq? Iraq is a Shia majority country that was being led by a minority Sunni group of Saddam Hussein's Ba'ath Party, who now dominated the Shia majority. Now, what is happening in Iraq now after the U.S. left Iraq? After the U.S. left Iraq, Iraq is a democracy. It's a developed and evolving democracy, right? As in every evolving democracy, they will have challenges. But the truth of the matter is that every Iraqi son and daughter cannot dream of being president in Iraq today because the United States had gone in there and given them democracy. So Iraq is no longer being ruled by a minority Sunni group led by Saddam Hussein Ba'ath Party. And I've come to Afghanistan. Afghanistan has always been an unstable country. Afghanistan have been, how do I describe it, of the entire globe. The British had been there, the Russians had been there, even before the Americans even went in there. So it has never been the best stable country in the world.
Okay, let's move a step forward.
Let's talk about Libya as well. I want to correct all this narrative that has always been going on. Libya was not an American-led effort. The effort was led by the French and the British, Nicolas Sarkozy and Gordon Brown. Barack Obama reluctantly sent in an aircraft carrier after the Europeans had beckoned on him multiple times to come in. And after the Libyans went into Benghazi and killed the American ambassador there. You guys are all aware of that. So it was not a U.S.-led operation. All right. Okay? So,
Captain,
because you guys are always talking about where things are not going well. Do you know that South Korea is a vibrant democracy today because of America. America liberated the South Koreans. It's a vibrant democracy. It's one of the richest, the largest economies in the world. Europe, World War II, World War I was never American war. These were Europeans trying to annihilate themselves. And the U.S. did not only go in there and end both World War I and World War II. The United States came up with the Marshall Plan and rebuilt Europe. Today, European countries are vibrant economies and flourishing democracies.
Captain, I'd like to move us to something similar to what you're just saying. Now, it's a fact that we're going to be having the U.S. troops in Nigeria, on ground in Nigeria. Now, can there be a transfer of capacity plan so that we don't create a situation where there is that long-term dependence on the U.S. for intelligence and all that, so that a system is created that now you're here helping us, but you must empower our own people with the capacity so that after XYZ period, we can also fit into those shoes. Should that be our own strategy?
It's possible, and it should be. You see, we can't continue to depend on foreign countries to help us solve our own problems. We must develop our domestic capacity, not just only militarily, but economically. You've seen what has been happening with our economy, because our economy has been more of an importation-dependent economy. We must grow our production base and be able to produce the things that we need as a nation, not just only militarily, but economically. Yes, I don't know what is in the security agreement that Nigeria had undertaken with the U.S., but I think that the suggestion you're making should be what we should be asking for. How do you help us to develop our domestic base so that we can grow our military capacity locally, military capacity and capabilities locally, to be able to confront our own challenges by ourselves without having to rely on foreign assistance, permanently. That should be the way to go. However, it will take a long time, so we have to have a starting point.
And it's not something that will just be dropped on the table.
No, it's not something that can be done overnight. But we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. There has to be a gap bridge between getting to that point and where we are right now. It will not. In fact, we won't transition into that overnight.
Okay, let's look at this pattern. Now, before now, we didn't have such involvement in helping us to handle our security. How do we measure the success rate? The other time, the U.S. bombed some areas in Sokoto, and some people were given a different narrative. Now, how do we measure that, okay, between when you came in and you bombed some areas in Sokoto, now we're having boots on ground in Nigeria, and whatever will be the next step? What are those yardsticks we should put in place to measure and say, okay, it's been a successful operation, or it's not been a good operation?
We can't determine that speculatively until we understand what they're asking, what our government has asked them to do for them, for us. We will not be able to establish this thing that you're talking about. You don't know what they've asked. You understand? And it depends on what we ask for. If we know what the government has asked for, we'll be able to measure it to see the level of success. But I am of the view that what is done already and what we are doing now will not be enough to solve the problem of insecurity in Nigeria. Because this is a very multifaceted, the challenges, the insecurity problem is not being driven by just one group or one issue. Is multifaceted. It's economics, it's social, it's security, all of what this is. So it has to be looked into holistically for us to be able to deal with these challenges.
Now, of recent, Nigeria has been taking steps to show a new direction to ECOWAS, especially in the times of military capacity. Will this engagement and cooperation with the U.S. affect our leadership role in Africa? That we are posturing to lead our ECOWAS, and now we're calling for help. Does it have any way to negatively affect us, or to further strengthen our leadership in ECOWAS?
I think it will further strengthen our leadership, if the U.S. is here to help us to build our own capacity, the capacity that we are going to build is not only going to be deployed here in Nigeria, it will be deployed in other ECOWAS countries. We have done that in the past. We were in Liberia. We helped to end the carnage in that country. We were in Sierra Leone. We also helped to end the carnage in Sierra Leone under the umbrella of ECOWAS. So if the U.S. help us to grow our capacity and capability, I feel that that capability and capacity will enhance our ability to be able to lead in ECOWAS. Because ECOWAS is more or less like Nigeria. Just like the United Nations is more or less like United States. It's the same thing that's happening within ECOWAS. So our enhancing our capability and capacity will also help us to enhance our leadership in ECOWAS. And I must add that this is not the first time U.S. and Nigeria has been cooperating militarily. The U.S. has been giving Nigeria all sorts of security assistance before now, including training. I can tell you that I have seen Nigerian soldiers on U.S. military bases training when I was in service, because you can easily see a Nigerian and know there is a Nigerian by their name tag. I do see them. Okay, so it is not a new thing. So this panic that U.S. is coming to take over Nigeria is misplaced and it
even further open our scope and the capacity of our military personnel having such cooperation. Don't you think so?
Why not? Why not? You're talking about the best military the world has ever known. From what is happening around the globe right now, it has become obvious to the entire globe that the United States military is the undisputed military in the whole world. No military possesses the capability and capacity that the armed forces of the United States possess.
Okay, talking about the undisputed world leader, there seems to be the resurgence of this Cold War. You have the U.S., you have the Chinese, you have the Russians also posturing. How can we handle our cooperation? Because we have a lot of Chinese investment in Nigeria. How can we handle our cooperation with the U.S. so that we don't end up becoming a proxy arena for these great powers?
Well, there is no way we are going to run away from that because we need help. And I have always advocated a situation where we are maintaining strategic neutrality. Non-alliance in global affairs. Because our challenges are multifaceted and the solutions do not lie in one block. The solutions are everywhere. And so we have to maintain that strategic neutrality so that we'll be able to tap in, whether it's the Russians or the Chinese or the Americans or the British or the French, tapping into all of what these powers to be able to harness what they have and enhance our own existence. And so we are like the new bride. So we should be very proud of ourselves if all these powers are trying to engage with us. There must be something that we have that is making them to be interested in engaging with us.
But it might also have some negative consequences, especially if you take into cognizance how President Trump handles issues where you want to align with those he perceived to be competitors.
It depends on how you negotiate, okay? You have to have a red line that, look, beyond this level, we are not going to accept. So you draw out your strategy, you set your red lines, and you go into your negotiation.
So we must have our own rules of engagement.
You have to have. It can't just be a Wild West where everything gets imposed on you. That is when you now get into those problems that the media is talking about. It's when you allow everything to get dumped on you. But if you have your own red lines, and ensure that you maintain those red lines, that they are not crossed. And so you go there, you negotiate from position of strength. And my view that us having options, whether to go to the Americans or the Chinese or the Russians or the British or the French, gives us that leverage of, look, if we can't get this from these people,
we become the beautiful bride.
Yes, we become the beautiful bride.
Right.
We go to the other people and
just because of time, I'd like us to quickly go into this aspect, terrorism financing, and why the government should deal decisively with those perceived to be sponsoring. Do you see actions being taken by government? So far, there was a former Attorney General that is being prosecuted. Do you see it as a right signal to deal with sponsors?
Well, I don't know the details of that of the former Attorney General. I like to speak of what I know. I don't know how involved he is in terrorist financing, but I can tell you that until we are able to tackle that aspect of terrorism, the financing, we will also still be running in circles. And this is where the West can help us, because they have this wider net of trying to figure out how funds are being moved around. And so if they can help us to track down those who are funding insecurity in Nigeria, it will be the easiest way for us to end this problem. Because this carnage that we're seeing in Nigeria cannot go on without finances. It costs money to do all these things. They will have to buy weapons. They have to buy ammunition. And if we can, close that gap where they don't get those resources to fund this insecurity in Nigeria, we will be on the right track in ending the insecurity challenge that we have in Nigeria.
Well, you're talking about being on the right track to end security challenge. Election is just around the corner. There are possible political pressure that can be put on government not to go the way of dealing with sponsors. How do you think government should handle such political pressure?
Well, you see, if we really want to solve our problem, we have to isolate politics from security. People are dying, and if we play politics with security, which we have been doing over the years, and which is why we are where we are today, if we keep going in that direction, we will never be able to solve the problem. Because even after this election cycle, we are still going to have another election cycle.
Exactly.
And so those who will be in power at that time will also have to make that political consideration. So at what point do we say, no, enough is enough? Let us remove political survival from security survival and deal with our insecurity problem.
Thank you so much, Captain Bish, for sharing your thoughts with us. It's been wonderful having this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And that is all that time will permit us to take on this edition of FCT Brief. I hand you back to Lagos, where my colleagues are standing by.
All right. Thank you so much, Eshomamo. That was such a timely conversation.